Hello everyone, Kolonji Murray with TaxAssurances. Just want to do a quick helpful video in terms of just overall tax preparation and the process, especially for people that are just filing taxes for the first time. But just an overview of what the process is, why it occurs, and what you can do to make sure you're in compliance. So first and foremost, you want to kind of get the idea that every year the IRS requires you to report your income that you make for the year. They want to get an understanding of what that is. That way they can tax you appropriately. Now, different people have different positions about whether or not you should pay taxes and that whole thing. But again, the IRS wants to know how much money you made. They want you to report it. And that includes even if you make cash. So say, for instance, you have a job and all they do is pay you in cash. You still are supposed to report that income. But for a lot of people, especially in like the gig economy, you're going to get like 1099s, you're going to have W-2s, you're going to have all sorts of information that whether it's Uber or your regular 9-to-5 job, they're actually going to report that income to the IRS as well to the states, in particular states that do impose income taxes. There are certain states that are out there that do not have a state income tax. But again, for the states that do, whoever is paying you, as long as it's more than about $600, they're going to send that information to the state letting them know. So what happens is when you get that summary statement, meaning your W-2, your 1099, it's your responsibility to prepare a tax return for that particular year reflecting that income. And then you're going to want to do it for all of your income. So let's say, for instance, you have 3 or 4 different jobs. Let's say if you do gig work and you get 1099s, all of that gets consolidated, and you want to make sure you're reporting all of that. So that's like the biggest thing that you have to do when it comes to the overall tax preparation process, and making sure that you have all of the necessary documents that reflect how much money you made for the year. If you don't, there's a good chance the IRS has it and they'll adjust the tax return to reflect that. But again, your responsibility as a tax preparer is to show all of that income, make sure that you've calculated everything, and then show that on the tax return. If you are working like in the gig economy or something like that, you're entitled to expenses. So it's a situation where, along with the fact that you made that money, you did have expenses related to that. So whether it's a car, whether it's a bike, you're renting space or something like that, those are expenses that are related to your activity and making that income. So the IRS allows you deductions for that. And that again is something that you want to report on your tax return. And that's going to be a good offset to, the income that you did have. Obviously, if you've got children, if you've got college expenses, if you've got student loans, there are all sorts of other credits and deductions that you may be entitled to. So it's a situation where whether you're going to do the tax return yourself or you're going to have a preparer like myself prepare it, you want to have a summary of all of that information kind of put together. That way you can properly reflect that on the tax return. And the way that I do my tax preparation process is I'll sit down with my clients, and like I've described to you already, I'll make sure that you're giving me all the income information. I'll make sure that you are showing me all your expenses. If there are credits that you're entitled to, I'll want to get that information, make sure that that gets reflected on the tax return. What I also do is I go over it. So I sit down with you and I go over line by line, making sure we have accounted for anything. I offer you the opportunity to ask any questions, have any comments. Once we do that, then we electronically file, or you would electronically file a return. The IRS in most states are requiring that, unless for special circumstances, that you do file electronically. The reason why, it just speeds the process up of processing the tax return. If you're entitled to a refund, then you can get that refund a lot faster. So that's why you'll see that the IRS requires and the states require that you have electronic filing. And then once that's done, that's it. If you are entitled to a refund, it's a situation where you'll get that in a timely fashion. If there are questions, then the IRS or the state will reach out to you with those questions. You'll want to address those to resolve those. If you owe, then obviously you can either pay upfront or you can do what's called a payment plan to kind of work out the circumstances. But other than that, that pretty much completes the process. Obviously, if you've got more questions, I'm here to help. But until then, talk to you soon.